Nuclear mysterious explosions have rocked deep inside Iran over the past 24 hours. Fingers of accusation are pointing towards several parties working against the Iranian regime. These explosions have been reported by several highly significant sources, such as the Kayhan newspaper, which spoke of 2 explosions. Furthermore, Iran International also documented the same details regarding the same explosions that occurred towards Al-Borz province, northwest of the Iranian capital Tehran, in the Chahar Mahal and Bakhtiari district, specifically in the village of Agdas, which we see here. The explosion struck one of the facilities belonging to the Razi Chemical Company, and this is how it appeared. Iranian sources stated that it was a glue factory that exploded in this particular manner and style. They did not mention the underlying cause of the explosion. Was it a deliberate act of sabotage, or was it just an accident? How many casualties were there? What actually happened? There are no specific details available whatsoever. It is very much like many of the various explosions that we have witnessed occurring inside Iran in the recent past. And if we attempt to leverage all of this available information to determine exactly what transpired here, or what the ultimate point is, you will certainly notice that we are looking at 2 distinct clusters of trees. There are trees situated on the right side and also on the left side. And the entrance is somewhat narrow in this area, and we can observe that the explosion originated from the right side. Therefore, based on the nature of the footage, this appears to be a clear industrial zone. If we head toward the Chahar Mahal and Bakhtiari province, specifically the village of Agdas we mentioned, this is roughly the village. In the Phobia for the Razi Chemical Company, you'll find it's based here in this area, starting from this direction. And consequently, you'll notice that the roads are identical to what we saw earlier in the same way and style. You can see narrow entrances between all these factories with trees on both sides. So it could be from any angle. I mean, it's possible. The perspective or the camera angle from this particular direction or that one is of course entirely adjustable to your preference. As a direct consequence, the fire and the subsequent burning took place within these specific factories that we are observing here. Indeed, one of them is the very one that caught fire. But of course, the details of what happened are not complete, as the Iranian media reported. However, it certainly documented the interesting fact that this explosion was not the only one, not at all, which is what raises a lot of controversy about what happened, as at a distance of approximately 10 kilometers. And if we head towards around the southern part of Karaj, roughly to the south of this specific area, which is to say coming from the north, from the direction we are currently looking from, or while we examine this area, if you look closely, you will notice Payam Airport, which also had to endure a series of truly significant and powerful explosions. You can clearly see that this specific footage of the explosions occurred at the exact same moment as the incident we are currently discussing at this chemical company's factory. In fact, Israel has targeted this particular location on many different occasions throughout the past few years. Throughout the entire duration of the recent conflict and the series of intense aerial strikes, which were eventually brought to a halt by a temporary 2-week truce. And at this very moment, it remains entirely unclear exactly how or when these hostilities might resume. The massive explosion took place right at a primary shipping point linked to Iran, and usually there are military shipments arriving in this region. Consequently, there are missile depots or other facilities that are believed to have been the targets of the Israeli side. What is really interesting is that these explosions here, this development follows just a few short days after the massive explosion that we personally witnessed taking place in the region of Gulistan back on the 19th of April. Approximately 6 days prior to the series of explosions that we are currently discussing here. The explosion struck at the factory that also utilizes chemical materials, specifically those required for coke manufacturing, making the site highly flammable and combustible. Such incidents, combined with the losses Iran is currently facing, certainly impose extremely difficult economic conditions and severely constrain the overall situation in the country. $500 million lost every single day as a direct result of the U.S. naval blockade. This is an extremely dangerous situation, especially since these recent explosions do not occur in a complete vacuum, but rather they stem from the highly volatile circumstances surrounding the nation of Iran and taking place within Iranian airspace. For example, during the very early hours of this morning, there was a great deal of flight activity occurring over Iraqi airspace. Some reports have specifically addressed this issue, including internal Iranian reports or those close to Israel. Furthermore, Iranian anti-aircraft defenses in the west of the country were activated this morning, suddenly opening fire into the sky in response to what was believed to be an aerial threat to Iran. Consequently, these reports indicated that there were fighter jets over Erbil, though their origin remains unknown. There have been no statements from the United States or any other party, but sources have also spoken about this matter in western Iran, specifically in Kermanshah. Anti-aircraft defenses began responding to what appeared to be an aerial threat that Iran had detected and started to engage. Furthermore, last week on Thursday, anti-aircraft defenses were also active west of the Iranian capital, Tehran. Yeah, according to reports, Iranian air defense systems made a concerted effort to intercept 2 drones. Therefore, it is reasonable to infer that these are likely the same drones that the Iranian authorities detected heading toward Kermanshah, a region which houses a significant missile base along with several critical military installations, which is what triggered the defensive response. Naturally, the flight path of these drones could originate from deep within Iranian territory or perhaps from outside heading directly into Iranian airspace. This could very well be a calculated method to reveal the true nature and capabilities of the currently deployed defense system. So what is the actual nature of this new deployment? It is clearly a test of their defensive measures before they decide to carry out any significant future attack. And naturally, the accusation is pointing toward regarding the state of Israel when we observe these types of explosions taking place amidst these specific overflights and these particular circumstances, specifically when we are discussing the Al-Bos province area towards Karaj as well as the region towards Golistan, it is highly probable that Israel is the entity responsible for conducting these types of operations in order to deal an even more severe blow to the economies. To that, at testing their defensive capabilities while simultaneously maintaining significant operational freedom for both Israeli and American air sorties to successfully carry out any future strikes. Furthermore, it is widely believed by a number of different sources that the Israeli side has actively supplied various weapons to armed Kurdish elements operating deep within Iran. One of the specific plans that has been revealed by a number of different American sources, and even the President of the United States himself has spoken openly about this matter, was that these weapons were actually intended to reach the protesters so that they would be able to utilize them to conduct various operations from within the country. The other parties that are widely believed to be the primary cause of this issue, and certainly not Israel if we are being specific. Well, when we discuss the explosions that have targeted these specific industrial factories or the Payam airport, it is entirely possible that various opposition elements operating from within, whether they be protesters, armed dissidents, or other factions, were responsible for these blasts, or perhaps all of these groups are operating simultaneously within this region. Farad, of course, we must also pay attention to the continuous shipments by the Israeli side. Boeing 747 aircraft belonging to the Azerbaijani Silkway Airlines have been delivering Israeli weapons there almost daily or every other day. Israeli weapons are reaching this region. Consequently, from this map, we can see that everything here is intended to pressure the Iranian capital, Tehran. Pressure from all sides, from multiple directions, militarily and economically. There is significant internal pressure, and of course all of this, whether it be the explosion, the drone flights, or the ongoing military preparations, is taking place against the backdrop of stalled negotiations between the United States and Iran. The specific series of explosions we are discussing today occurred in the immediate aftermath of the announcement by United States President Donald Trump regarding the cancellation of the planned diplomatic trip by the American negotiating delegation to Islamabad, Pakistan, where they were intended to hold discussions with the Iranian representatives, because he saw no logical point in traveling to Islamabad only to be confronted with what he perceived as entirely unacceptable terms and unfavorable conditions presented by the Iranian side. Farhani.